What's up guys, it's Cam coming at you from the 2-6. Welcome back to CFR. Today I'm going over a tag video that I did just a little while back. I did the perfect 10s or 10 out of 10 designer fragrances. Today I'm going to go over the perfect 10 niche fragrances. Now my friend Chris over at Frag Mental tagged me on this originally, so I will be tagging some channels to break out their biggest guns, their perfect 10 fragrances. Without no further ado, let's get our perfect 10 niche fragrances. Now, of course, it's probably pretty obvious to some of you what a perfect 10 fragrance is, but keep in mind, these are my picks. Sometimes people will, say, well, that's not a perfect 10. Of course, this is just based off of our own opinions. And in my opinion, the perfect 10 is from a house that has several perfect 10s. It is Initio Absolute Aphrodisiac. Now, if you guys have ever smelled this fragrance, you'll understand why I have it rated at a perfect 10. And the reason that Initio has a lot of perfect 10s is because they don't really get overly complicated with what they do, but they do it really, really well. If you'll look, most of their fragrances maybe have 4, 5, 6 tops as far as like the amount of notes they're in, but they're really skillfully blended and they use really high quality ingredients. Now, if I was to describe this fragrance, it would definitely be more of like a date night fragrance would be like my first pick, but it can be worn, like more for fall and winter. It's more of like a really sexy vanilla fragrance, to be honest with you. Now, the notes in this are white flower, vanilla, musk, castoreum, and amber. Now, granted, Initio parfums are not exactly cheap. They can be bought in the gray market, and sometimes they will show up in random places, with a little bit of a discount on them. That's why I would recommend, just as far as like what I would do or what I do, is wear these like on date night, special occasions, special events. This is a very upscale, beautiful, sexy fragrance. It says aphrodisiac in the title, so that should give you an indication what it's good for. This is also a unisex fragrance, so this probably would smell really good on a woman as well. I cannot vouch for that, but I think it would. Coming in at number 9 is a fragrance I did a full review on a while back. It is from Tiziana, Tarenzi. It is Spirito Fiorentino. Now, this is one of the fragrances that got bunched as a red fragrance, and there was some people that would feel, yeah, okay, if it's in a red bottle it's going to have like a BR540 vibe, but there are fragrances that are not in red bottles that have BR540 vibe. Now, this is really nice, extremely nice fragrance with excellent projection, excellent longevity, and of course the Baccarat Rouge 540 is a very popular DNA that has been done in numerous different ways. Yes, it does have saffron. Yes, it does have precious woods, which are two of the primary ingredients that give that BR540-esque vibe or whatever. Now, this one is also considered a unisex, but I would find this leans a little more masculine, whereas the previous fragrance that I showed you from Initio is probably dead center, leaning slightly masculine. Now, this one has some jazz, saffron, orange, precious woods, musk, and leather. And that leather is not going to be like Tuscan leather type leather. Is going to be a very well balanced and blended leather that actually, if I would pivot just a little bit, I would say it's more of like a suede type leather, if that makes any sense. If you've smelled a fragrance that says like suede note, even though suede is a form of leather, it's a much softer leather, and that is the type of leather that is in this fragrance, to my nose anyway. Next fragrance is a fragrance that I was like kind of like, okay, it's good, it's just not like because a lot of people were really just losing their minds over this fragrance. But yeah, to me, it's a perfect 10. It's from Mason Francis Kirkjohn. This is Grand Soir. Any of you who have smelled this fragrance, you're either going to be like I am and consider it a perfect 10, or like I used to be and be like, what's the big deal? That's how I was in the beginning. I couldn't understand the hype. I felt that it was kind of a simple fragrance, but the more you smell it, the more you wear it, there is something extremely addictive about this fragrance. It is masterfully blended. It is perfect for, oh my God, especially the fall and the winter. You will definitely draw attention. It's sweet, it's sexy, it's aromatic. It's just a perfectly blended fragrance. I find this fragrance to be really rich and smooth and sexy, seductive. It's just, yeah, it's perfect. Some of the notes in this one are ladum, vanilla, tonka bean, and amber. So yeah, there are some fragrances that are kind of in this wheelhouse, like Tonka Imperial is one that I found to be in this realm. It's actually a fragrance that I used to own, and I think I had maybe like one or two other ones. I can't remember like right off the cuff what they were, but you know, they were heavy with vanilla, amber, and Tonka. So I actually, you know, thinned the herd a little bit and wound up keeping this because it's a perfect 10. Coming in at number 7 is from a house that is very worthy of a lot of perfect 10s. It is Creed, and this one is Silver Mountain Water. Now, Silver Mountain Water is one that I actually called the home wrecker, and there was people in the comments that agreed. And the reason that you'd say that is because, yes, it is it's one of those fragrances that'll kind of sneak up on you, and you know, if a person who's like looking to wreck your home, they smell it on you, there's a good reason that you might get into a little trouble, or vice versa. Now, when I first smelled this fragrance, I loved it. I really liked it a lot, but as far as it being like a perfect 10, I don't know if I would have rated it that way at first, but this bottle is almost empty. This is probably like my second most worn fragrance from Creed, and I will definitely be having to get another bottle very soon because I can't see myself without it in my collection. It's got really good performance and projection as well, and you wouldn't think that because it is a tea-based fragrance, but trust me, if you overspray this one, it could actually almost be like too much. Now, you've got some milky sweet black currant in here, and then of course you've got that green tea, and then it also has some bergamot and sandalwood, so you get that creaminess from the sandalwood and the black currant. Then you get a little bit of brightness from the bergamot, and then of course the greenness from the green tea. Now, of course, as you can see, this is one of the older presentations, so this is one that actually does have like that ink vibe that people talk about. Now, I know you're thinking like, yeah, ink, I don't want no part of that. It makes it unique, and I actually think that it's one of the things in this fragrance that actually kind of makes it be attention grabbing. Now, not that you want to be sitting here like because it ain't like that. You really need to smell it. If you haven't, I would highly recommend sampling it. Anytime that I sample, I always go to today's sponsor. It's www.myfragrancesamples.com. They carry a large variety of niche, designer, and indie fragrances. That is a perfect place to get a chance to smell brand new releases, even some that haven't hit the United States yet. Go to www.myfragrancesamples.com. Now, if your husband, wife, boyfriend, girlfriend, whatever has been, you know, tripping on you a little bit, or you know, making you feel lonely or just acting up, I would say, like, unless you don't want to be with them anymore, don't wear this. It can get you in trouble. Next fragrance should be no surprise to you. It has been in a few lineups, and I have honked my horn about this fragrance so many times, and it is most definitely a perfect 10. It's my secret weapon. It's Berionda from Nasomato. This fragrance is so good. So masterfully blended, and it pulls compliments like you would not believe. Now, this one has some musk, ambrette, whiskey, rose, ambroxan, and woody notes. So the woody notes actually almost like represent like a whiskey barrel that's soaked with whiskey. Now, this isn't like like if you smelled whiskey on somebody's breath, it's not like that. It's just a very boozy fragrance, but it has ambroxan in here, and the way that they use the ambroxan, it really causes this fragrance to project. And oh wow, as I've said before, ambroxan does work to attract women, and a lot of boozy fragrances do as well. So you've got kind of like a double hitter there, and of course a triple hitter when you add that musk. This fragrance is perfect for fall and winter, perfect for date night, perfect if you want to get somebody's attention. It is most definitely a 10 out of 10. Coming in at number 5 is a must-have winter fragrance from Amouage. It is Jubilation Man Jubi 25, or just Jubi. This is one of the most fantastic oud fragrances you'll ever get your nose on. It's a very wearable oud, but it also has an addictiveness about it. It's not like a real funky or skanky animalic oud fragrance. There's actually a lot going on in here. It opens up with like almost bright citrus top notes of orange, but there's a lot of depth in there mixed with a lot of deep and dark and mysterious notes. On that opening, you will get that orange mixed with some coriander. You also get hints of honey mixed with rose. Then as it dries down, which takes a little while for everything to come into play with the mid notes and the dry down, it has guaiac wood mixed with some rose and patchouli. And then of course your oud. Now I think there's also like myrrh and some other, like I said, there's a lot of notes in here. I don't want to go over all of it, but this is anything but a linear fragrance. It's one of the best performing and most mass appealing oud fragrances. Now please don't misunderstand me when I say this, because I know that this fragrance is not for everyone, but as far as a complex oud fragrance, this is as good as it gets. 12 hours of performance, over an arm's length of projection or sillage. Just one of my absolute favorites from Amouage. And as you well know, if you are familiar with this house, they do have very, very high quality ingredients. Outside of something like maybe like Tom Ford Oud Wood, which is a very easy fragrance to wear, as far as when it comes to complex ouds and still being very wearable and somewhat mass appealing, it's not going to get much better than Jubi. Coming in at number 4 is still my favorite vetiver fragrance so far. It is Nuit de Megève from 8 and Bob. Now this fragrance does have like a slightly earthiness about it, but at the same time it has a very freshness about it, and it has some grapefruit in the top notes, which almost gives it a slight sparkle. But you also have some petitgrain, some coffee, tonka, clove buds, vetiver, tobacco, and musk. So it does have vetiver listed as one of the base notes, but that vetiver is actually something I pick up on the opening that's mixed with the, you know, all the notes really. This is not a linear fragrance at all. It does do a lot of evolving. Like I said on the opening, it does come off a little bit fresh, but it also comes off a little bit dark. It almost has a mysterious vibe about it. This is one that I think would be like marketed for like cooler weather, but spring is where I find that this one really shines. And of course fall will be perfect for this as well. This is a masterpiece without a doubt. 10 out of 10 Nuit de Megève 8 and Bob. Coming in at number 3 is actually a fragrance that actually started getting a little bit of a buzz, and I feel that I am partly to blame for that. And Timmy from Imagine Scent is to blame for the reason that I have it in my collection. It is Morning Chest from Valheim Perfumery. Now I did have this in my Aventus DNA battle. It was actually in the part 2 that I did with Jacob Bryant, where I actually brought out some of the, you know, actually most requested fragrances that people, you know, were talking about had an Aventus vibe or Aventus DNA, and he did pick this fragrance. It's complex. This is a very, you know, complex fragrance. It does have like an Aventus vibe to it, but it's actually categorized as like a leather fragrance. It has a beautiful leather note. Now this one is going to be like a darker leather, like similar to a Tuscan leather, but you also get that freshness of that bergamot in the opening like you would in an Aventus type fragrance. Now this one also has some patchouli, it has some galbanum, and some black amber. So this is a very mysterious fragrance in a way, but the DNA is not mysterious whatsoever. It has similarities to Aventus, but definitely doing its own thing. Wow, this one's good for year-round. Easily, this is, you know, a 4-season fragrance. It does have a lot of depth to it, so it may come off a little intense in the high heat, just depending on what you like. If you want something just really light and, you know, real cheery to wear in the summertime, this might be a little bit too dark, you know, with the amber and the patchouli and obviously the darker leather. Now, I have heard a couple people say that it just just basically smells like Aventus and Tuscan leather hybrid. I can see where somebody might think that, but to me, it's definitely, I have actually blended Tuscan and Aventus together. It does make a very nice fragrance, but this is still different and still better. The amber in here actually takes this to another level. Just a beautiful, magnificent 10 out of 10. Coming in at number 2, probably will not come to any surprise to you. You guys know that I adore this fragrance. It is Black Phantom from Killian. Yeah, there has to be a Killian in this list. It was just, I had to put a couple of them away, so I didn't have like 4 or 5 of them in this, and it was the same thing with a couple of other houses that I have here as well. Now, when it comes to deep, rich, dark, sexy, mysterious, this is the king as far as fragrances that fit that description. This actually has like a really, I don't know, sexy booziness about it, but it also has coffee. Then you have caramel, you have dark chocolate, and you also have sugarcane and sandalwood. So you get, I don't know, it's just a sexy concoction of madness that is ever so sexy, highly addictive, will impress most anybody that has ever, you know, smelled it or not smelled it. It's just one of these fragrances that let me tell you something. I actually saw somebody write on Fragrantica about this being nothing different, nothing unique. I'd like to know what other fragrance smells like this that isn't a clone of this. This is anything but linear, and I have not smelled any other fragrances with a scent profile like this whatsoever. Killian really has something going on over there that just really gravitates with me, and their fragrances do not smell like other fragrances I've smelled, and that's one of the reasons I like them so much. Yeah, I'm a bit of a Killian fanboy. It is what it is. This is a 10 out of 10 if there has ever been one. Last one up is from a house that is quickly moving its way into like easily top 5 right now, maybe top 3. It might wind up being number 1 for it's all over with, but they are knocking it out of the park, and I am talking about Nichane, and the fragrance I'm talking about is Amber Calibria. When I actually did the review on this, I went ahead and said that this was a 10 out of 10. They have a few other fragrances that I find are 10 out of 10s. This is one of those houses that I was having to pick which one. So this is the one that's getting the most wear from me right now. As you can well see, as big as my collection is, I keep reaching for this fragrance. This would be categorized as like a citrus fragrance as far as how I would categorize a fragrance, but it's much more than that. There's so much going on in this fragrance that just really just kind of is all over the map with how it evolves on your skin. It opens sweet and bright with citrus. You've got bergamot as a top note, but vanilla's in here as well, so you get that vanilla and bergamot together, which actually comes off like a sweetened lemon, almost like I had mentioned in my previous review, like a lemon head. If you guys have ever eaten a lemon head and know how sweet they are once you keep them in your mouth, that is what this reminds me of. It has a green vibe mixed in with that because it says that it has green leaves in here. So you've got bright citruses, and then you've got the greenness also mixed with that vanilla, and then you have a beautiful note of jasmine in here, which really starts kind of peeking through in the mids, and then you've got a really sweet amber laying on a beautiful cloud of musk. So when this thing dries down, it's still got the sweetness from the vanilla, the citrus is dialed in there with that greenness, and then it has a really sexy musk on the dry down. This is absolutely a stunner. If you've not tried it, I suggest it. After I did the review on this, I saw several people in the comments that just said they went and did a blind buy, and then I went and saw like at Fragrance X, Fragrance by CA, they were sold out. I don't know if I had anything to do with that, but there were people like, yo, where the heck can I find it? So some of the places I knew that had it didn't have it anymore. And I noticed that the price went up $20 on it. Now you can find this, you know, between $135 upwards of $200 depending on where you're looking for it, but this is one definitely worth sampling. This is one that they do carry at myfragrancesamples.com as far as the samples go, so I would suggest sampling it, if you don't believe me how good it is, this is actually blind buy worthy, and I rarely ever would say that. There are definitely really good things going on over at Nichane. So as I said, I was tagged by Chris from Frag Mental to originally do this tag, of course, with my designers. So I'm going to pass the torch to some other channels for the niche end of it. The first channel I would like to tag on this is Buck over at Big Beard Business. Matter of fact, I'm rocking his merch today. So yeah, let's make America fresh again. The next channel I'd like to tag is Ashen over at Gent Sense, Manny over at Cascade Sense, and Steven from Redolescence. I know all of you guys have impeccable taste, impeccable collections. I love to see what all you guys could whip up and whip out for these 10 out of 10 niche fragrances. Down in the comments, let me know what your 10 out of 10 niche fragrance is, or your 10 out of 10 fragrances. Until next time, I'll see you on Carolina Fragrance Reviews.